Alright, so it's clutch time. Here we are. Time to get this bad boy on there. Got the crane all set up, ready to go. Just about to hang it off of the stand. So I'm going to try and show you guys an easy way how to change like a rear main seal that's not got an easy point to pull it out with. So first of all, I'm going to make sure I've got a new seal that's the right size and type. So in order to get this seal out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a small hole in the seal. I found the smallest one I got. It just needs to be like slightly smaller than the screw that you're going to put in it. So then I'm going to pull this screw in there, put the screw in there into the hole. Then we're going to use a screwdriver to try and lever the seal out. There you go. You get your screw, go in a couple of threads. And there you go. So now we've got our two seals. This is the old one, new one. We just want to compare them next to each other. Make sure they are the same. You can see those little dots. They're all greased, it's ready to go on. What I'm going to do is just clean this surface on where I'm about to knock the seal on. And then we'll put the new seal in. Alright, so we've got our new seal. Make sure it's in the right way. See the hollow edge of the seal, you go to the inside usually. Get it to start. Now what we can do is grab the old seal. Checking it as you go. Alright. So now you just want to make sure that it's in the whole way around. It's all nice and level. There isn't one bit that's a lot deeper than the rest. It's all good. And that's how you can replace one of them seals. Alright, so I just ended up going on a mad dash trying to find my dowel pins, only to find that I actually left them in the bell housing. So, found them now. I got one out. The other one is being stubborn, doesn't want to come out, so I'm going to put just this one in. If I get the other one out later, I can put it in if I need to. Otherwise, I'm going to try and just get it on there, see how it works. So, let's get it done. I really need that other dowel pin, eh? Honestly, the next bit to go on is the flywheel. So we'll clean up the back of the crank here. I'll make sure that there's nothing, and absolutely nothing left on it. That means that the flywheel is going to be completely square onto the back of the crank. We're not going to get any vibration or any misalignment or any possibility of the bolts coming loose because something is in the way there. Alright, so that's all cleaned up. I'll grab the flywheel and I'll grab the brass bush. We'll get it all ready, we'll mock it up and make sure it all goes on there properly. So here we have the flywheel, and the reason I've got it on its back is because this is the surface that we want to make sure is clean before we go and put it onto the motor. So it's a machine surface, so there's no need to sand it back or anything like that. Just want to look for any high points or dents. Not that one. Or anything like that have been in it, and if that is the case, then you will want to take that down before you put it on there. But this is all good. There's a couple little scratches here, but they're not actually high points or anything, so I'm just going to hit it with some brake cleaner and then we can put it straight onto the back of the crank. We can now go ahead and put this flywheel on there, but I'm just looking now, I don't think the brass bush is going to fit through the hole on the flywheel, so I'm going to grab the bush and have a look. It does fit. Alright, so it does fit through the hole in the flywheel, but I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to knock it in now, so there's no risk of damaging the flywheel when I go to hammer this in. Just to be sure, I'm going to test fit this on the gearbox. just to make sure it is the right size, just for my own peace of mind. Okay, so it's really low light, I'm sorry, but we have the bush here, and I was just wanting to make sure that it wanted to go over the input shaft, and it does, so that's all good. Alright, so we're ready to put this bush on. One edge of the bush does have this taper on it, which the other edge doesn't, so that would be the edge that the gearbox input shaft would go into, just to give it a little helping hand. That's what the taper's for. So we're going to put the taper to the outside. It's going to go in like that. I'm going to hammer it in. So that's our brass bush all installed. Next thing to do is put this flywheel on. Alright, so I found the bolt set that I got with the kit. They would come with thread lock already on them. So basically once they're in, you have to do them up, do them in properly. What I am going to do is make sure I've got the tension before I go banging these in. So I'll double check the tension, make sure I've got it all right, so I know exactly what to do them to, and then we'll go from there. Shit. Can't really see that. Alright. Magic, we got one in there. The pattern is sometimes different, which I've just found on this is the case. So that means I'm going to have to undo these and spin it around until I find the correct location. Send that one in. Now we can send the rest of it in. Alright, so I was about to put the clutch all on there, and then a mate recommended to me to do them to 80 foot-pounds instead of 75 newton meters. So he's done a couple of these. That's him replying now, and I'm going to take his word for it. So 80 foot-pounds it is, and I'm going to go send them on from there. Next up, you've got an alignment tool. Got the pressure plate. I'm thinking that you make it upside down and then put it on. Oh, they make these things look way too good to put in a car, eh? So that's our pressure plate cleaned. So I'll go ahead and chuck a couple of bolts in this. Give the blocks a bit of a clean, not too much. We've got our first plate with the groove in it, which locks into the pressure plate. This one is being dropped in the way that I was just holding it. So that way. So this plate's your first one in, now that we've cleaned that. That's number one. That one says pressure plate. You can read, yep, pressure plate. So that one's going to go that side towards the pressure plate. So you don't have to clean these, I just usually wipe them to make sure there's no dust or anything on them. And we will sit this pressure plate side down in the center, and then we'll grab the next plate. So this is our center plate with the spring tabs in it. So these spring tabs, they're pretty strong, and what they're designed to do is keep these two metal plates apart to allow the whole clutch to spread apart when it's not under load, so that you don't get the clutches wearing when your foot's on the clutch. Or you don't get them too engaging when your foot's on the clutch. So this one is important that it's clean on both sides. Alright, so after talking to someone who's got a bit of a better idea than me and thinking it over, we're thinking that we are going to put it in the orientation of that way. So the little the ramp on the hook itself will spin with the orientation of the motor. So if anything gets caught in there, it's just going to fly straight past it and not catch anything or anything like that. So this is obviously to stop the rattle and to also keep those plates apart. So that's the orientation that's going to go in. So that's got to go in that way, which means it's going to have to go in that way on the clutch there. So I'm going to clean this all up and put her on. So here's the last plate. This one has, where is it? There. It says flywheel side on the top here. It says flywheel side. So that's obviously going to go towards the flywheel. So it's going to go that way into there. Make sure that there's no clash in between the two pressure plates. Just by running your finger in, you'll feel the gap in there. And now I have to work out how to get this out without putting it everywhere. So we've got our alignment tool in there. We have our plates all on. Now what we're going to do is line this up. Oh shit. On the flywheel. Try and get these bolts to start. All of them started. Now what I have to do is make sure that the clutch plates are in the center. By a bit, I'll do these up, making sure all the plates are in the center. While trying to find the proper tension for the flywheel, I actually came across the full instructions. Turns out we've done everything right, and I need to set this to 33 Newton meters. Set it back to Newton meters. We'll go. Yeah. Alright, so thrust bearings all set up. Put the fork on there, the new thrust bearing and clip. We're ready to go in. Alrighty, so it's just sitting back in there. Engine mounts are all done up. Got all the bottom bell housing bolts done up. Just need to do the top ones. Still quite a lot to sort out, but we'll get there. So turbo doesn't fit because it's just not going to work with the BF manifold. So I'm going to try and get an FG manifold, see if that fixes anything. And yeah, there's a couple of little tight clearances in here with the water pipes and that kind of stuff. That's where the ECU is going to be mounted, in that corner there with the relay box. So my shroud has turned up, but no radiator. Alright guys, so it's actually been a while. A part I've been waiting for is my oil feed for the turbo. This is the adapter nut that goes onto it. So one end is the pressure sensor, and then the other end tightens on the banjo fitting. So we'll get this on there. I've got the other end in the block. I'll show that now if I can get the camera in there, because it's quite a tight fit, and I'll show you that. If you're wondering what I did to my hand, yep, DRZ got the better of me. Right, so that's the fitting there with the line coming out of it. So this nut's got to go on the end just there. I don't have enough room to actually get my hand in there, so I'm going to screw. Whoop! Hang on, here we go. I'm going to screw that piece on into that and get the plug on there. So that's the next step. Hang up along the bottom of the intake manifold. Just realised that I've still got a knock sensor plug here, so I'll have to go grab my spare knock sensor and chuck that on. So they just mount up in the block in here somewhere. I'll get that on there and then move on to the next step. Got that knock sensor in. It's a bit of a pain, but not too bad. So that's all in. Only thing else left to do under here is wire up the starter motor, and I think underneath wise that's pretty well it. Ta-da! There's an FG manifold on. Alright, so the reason I went to an FG manifold was purely because the BF turbo manifold wouldn't fit at all. So the BA manifold was hitting on everything just here, and it would not fit at all. So the FG manifold, it sits back about an extra probably 40 mil at a guess, and the angle makes it sit in about 30 mil more. So it's just enough to clear everything, because my main issue was the compressor housing was hitting on this ring when it's actually on this ring when it was when I was putting it down and in there. So that's fixed that issue, and it's definitely if you're going to do this conversion, you definitely need an FG manifold, or you need a 6 boost one, which sits at kind of in the middle up here somewhere. So, or you can flip a BA manifold. Turbo does sit right up here. So if you look at my the episode, or when is it? The last one, I think, episode 3. When I put the engine in and the engine mounts and all that, you'll see I have the BA series manifold flipped, purely because it wouldn't fit. So we had that flipped on there. It looked really cool, but it's not going to work with the intercooler that we wanted to put on this. So that's where we're at. So this looks like a bit of a jumbled mess, but I've been trying to work out where to run everything. So this diagram just got my battery over here, alternator here, temperature sender there, starter motor back here. The oil pressure is actually going to be over here now. So just trying to sort it all out. I have 5 wires I need to run across the back, but 2 of them split off, so 3 of them end up over here. 2 of them for the alternator, 1 for the temperature, and then 2 end up in here for the speedo and the ignition source. You won't need the speed one if you're not running an BF ECU. I'm running a BF ECU, so I need a speedo input, which I have an adapter for. I also need to run the the AC one from over this side over to here. That is long enough to reach, so I'll just use the standard wiring for that. The starter wire, yeah, that's not quite long enough, so I need to extend that one, chuck that over here. What else is there? A 12 volt one I need to run across, and obviously the main feed for the starter motor, which is going to be probably the most painful one, but we'll get there. So and then I just need to make a good decent earth point over here somewhere in order to earth the ECU and everything too. So that's the plan at the moment. I also need to hook in the alternator, so I have 2 wires coming from the Ford ECU into the alternator, but I also have the 2 wires from the Nissan dash that I need to hook into this as well in order to actually, I don't know if I actually need it to ignite the alternator or not, but I definitely do need it in order to get the charge battery to work in the dash. So that's what I'm going to try and work out. I'm going to try and get this loom across, at least the loom in somewhat made tonight, so we can get that all up and in. So let's get into it. Right, so I'm getting to still neaten all this up, but I got all the wires from the ECU and all that all in here. They're running through here. I've got a couple of spare ones just sitting in there if I ever want to run anything later. And this loom just wraps around with a little collar, little tie down point there, runs across over the top of the clutch the clutch booster there. So yeah, I got a little water temp sender in for our water temp in the gauge, and yeah, just got to wire in the rest. Alright, so here's where I'm at with the loom. So I have run all the wiring across from the ECU on the other side. They were all just a part of the loom, and also the relay box. So this is the main power cable for the relay box. We have the earth cable for the ECU. The power cable or ignition cable for the ECU has been run into the cab, and I will get that off the back of the fuse box. It's just behind here. So that's those. I have my air conditioner control wire, so this is going to be wired straight into the AC wire that comes straight off the old compressor, which I have traced all the way back to here. We then have 2 two other wires, which are the starter wire and a constant 12 volt for the memory for the ECU. Other than that, there's just these three wires here, which are for the alternator and the temperature sensor that we put into the thermostat housing of the Barra over there. So I've got a couple of spare wires here so I can run them later on. I've also got this blue wire, and that is the wire for the Tacho, which I need to wire in later, which I'm not quite sure if I'll end up using it from here or using it from the other side, but I know where it is if I know when I need it. So that's a little rundown of what comes from the ECU side of stuff. So out of the fuse box here, what I did was I stripped the entire loom back, and all the wiring that went through the grommet, so this is if you have a 3 litre, a DI at least, all the wiring that comes through the grommet in the back of the firewall, you can remove all of that. You have to grab all the wiring that comes back to here, which also comes off of the transmission loom. So that all comes back up, comes into the fuse box here, and the wires that you'll need to grab out of that is this black wire with a yellow stripe, that's your starter motor. You'll need this apricot kind of orange coloured one for your oil pressure. You will need the yellow with the black stripe for the AC. The two wires that go to your alternator, which in my case are a yellow with a red stripe and a white with a green stripe. And I think that's it. There should just be the temperature one, which is wherever. Oh yeah, so that's that one there. And then your temperature one, which is a yellow with a red stripe as well. So you just have to make sure you get the right ones, because there are a couple yellow with red stripe. But one yellow with red stripe for my AC and one yellow with red stripe for the temperature sensor. So all I have to do now is basically put them end to end, and it should all work. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the sensors and that kind of stuff first, all the small wires, and then I'll get into the power cables and ground cables. So alright, so we're in the car now, and we've got to wire in the speedo adapter. So a bloke named Matt Dawson on the Barra Patrols page, he makes all of these. These just simply wire into the back of the loom, the loom on the back of the dash, and then you have one output wire that has to go to your ECU. So I needed to locate the light blue and grey wires on the far right connector plug. So I've done that. There's the grey and blue wires just there. And these need to be soldered onto them. When my loom was made, I have a wire underneath my dash, so it's down underneath the dash on my OBD connector, and that's what this wire here is going to connect to, so that's already connected to my ECU. So alright, so got them all soldered on, I'm happy with that. It's going to be good enough for what we're doing. We also needed to locate this yellow wire with the black stripe. So this is going to be the reading for the Tacho. So they're for the speedo, so that we can get the correct speed input into the Falcon ECU. This wire here is for the Tacho, so that the factory dash will work with the XR6 motor. So I need to tap into this and run a wire from this to the other wire that's part of my loom, which is already made into my loom luckily. So let's do that. So that'll all be bunched together just like that. And there is the loom. So that just goes back into the dash over here. So like the rest of them. And these wires, I will grab a little bit of conduit and I'll just run them down through to here. Actually, I'll probably wrap them around the back where the cruise control one goes. They'll just all tuck nicely down behind there and go into our other loom. There we are. So they're running just there. Alright, so I just remembered that I had to pull my fuse panel out anyway in order to get an ignition source. So I pulled that down. I've been able to feed the wires around over to the wires for the OBD. Sorry, not for the OBD, but that are on the OBD wire. So these are the wires for these two that have been previously wired in. So all I have to do, solder them up and tape them up. Well, actually no, I can heat shrink these because they're open-ended. So As they're open-ended, I'd like to heat shrink them, so that's what I'll do. I'll get these ones on there, I'll do that, and then I'll work on getting this ignition source that I need to get for the Falcon ECU. Alright guys, it is late on a Monday morning and I'm pretty sure I'm about ready to start this. So I finished up tightening up all that wiring. So that's all in. We've got a drain for the turbo on. Got the fire extinguisher handy as well at the ready. And I'll set you guys just here. Alright, so I've had a couple little issues in trying to get this to work. I haven't been able to get my fuel pump to prime or anything like that. Turns out that I need to actually flash in a XR6 turbo or NA tune into the computer. So I've got the one out of my Falcon and I've flashed that into the BF gas ECU, because if you're using a gas ECU, you have to change it back to so you have to flash in an XR6 turbo or NA tune because it runs on a completely different strategy. So the fuel pump control for the gas motors runs a completely different circuit. So we've had to just reflash that in and it should work now, but I'm not getting my fuel pump to prime, so I can't get the fuel pump to prime. I have spark now, and I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm going to just bypass my fuel pump, see if my injectors work, and see if we can get it to kick. Somewhere. My heart is going a million miles an hour right now. It feels so good to have this thing going. So good. I have no idea what I was doing wrong, but I've plugged my fuel pump back on and it seems to be working now. So whether I just didn't turn the ECU all the way off and then all the way back on again properly for it to reset, I don't know. Oh,